Good morning, it is Hannah here with Rundle's Urban Farm, and this is week 2 for the garden. So I'm going to take you on a tour, show you the progress of the different things we've got growing. I think today I will show you the raised beds in the front yard, and I'm also going to show you taking down our temporary high tunnel. We've been growing a few crops in there so that we could get a little bit of a jump on the season, and now it's starting to bake in there, so we're gonna get that taken down so that the crops can just enjoy the nice weather we're having without baking. So enjoy. So this is where our high tunnel was, and I've taken off the plastic. The plastic we used is like I believe it's a 6mm just window covering plastic that you can get at the hardware store on a long roll. So super cheap and super easy to cover what we already had going here. We started a lot of plants this year, so we've got some that are still growing in, some that we ended up having to put in pots. Right here we've got an acorn squash and a small sugar pumpkin, and I believe in this one we've got a kabocha and some Hubbard squashes, and then in this one we are growing a paste tomato and some butternut squash. And then over here is where we are growing greens, and those were growing in the high tunnel until just now when we took off the cover. And we're also started beans under here. Now beans really do not like cold weather, so it was nice to be able to start them a little earlier with the protection of the high tunnel. And over on this side we have some more beans and some acorn squash, and then a new crop of greens which I just started well, a week or 2 ago, and then this batch over here was started probably 8 weeks ago. And then here we have our cherry tomatoes, and I threw a basil in there, but if you can see, compared to last week, these tomatoes have practically doubled in size. All right, let's go take a look at the raised gardens in the front. So here are our raised garden beds. They're all 5 feet wide, and the 2 larger ones are 4 feet deep, and the small one with the strawberries in the middle is 2 feet deep. So in the front of this one we've got onions growing, and again these onions I've started from seed. These ones are called Red Danvers. I'm not familiar with the variety, but I'm interested to try a new kind of onion. And then these here are kabocha squash, and that one over there is an ebony acorn. Now the kabocha squash, when I planted them, this one was way bigger than this one. This one barely had its first true leaves. That one is a hybrid kabocha variety, Black Forest F1 kabocha, and this one here is just an heirloom kabocha. So I'm curious to see how these two compare through the season. So far, I'm obviously more impressed with the heirloom variety. And then back here, you can't really see much going on, but I did plant some beets under the squash, so the squash will eventually take over this space, but I should be able to harvest the beets before that. And just some nasturtiums. Then over here we have our strawberry bed, and we are getting a few ripe ones every day. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah. And then over here, this raised bed really has a lot in it. I've got spinach that's just starting to come up. I've got habanada peppers, which are like habaneros. They have the same sweet flavor, but no spice to them, hence the nada part. This is a corbachi pepper, and I believe it's kind of like it's a long skinny pepper that you could make like paprika out of. And then over here, I believe that one is a poblano. And then in our wall of water, I've got a lesa pepper and a another habanada. And then here we've got an indigo apple tomato from Wild Boar Farms, and the kaleidoscopic jewel tomatoes, and those are also from Wild Boar Farms. And then here we've got cucumbers, and they are finally starting to take off. The last couple of weeks they've been looking kind of sad. They really don't like cold weather, so it looks like 6 out of 7 are doing great, and I'm gonna have to replant that 7th one. I'll also go ahead and show you the early stages of our front garden bed. The only thing really blooming right now is the pansies, or Johnny jump ups. And then we've got a cherry bush here, massive daisies, which are competing with the cherry bush for size. Another cherry bush. Some irises, which are a really pretty pink color. I didn't think I would like them, but they're more of an old-fashioned style, but the blossoms turned out really pretty, so I'll see if I can grab a photo and put it in here for you guys. And then we've got our hanging baskets, which we really had fun making. Alright, now we'll walk through the back garden, which I'm doing the video in the morning, so this garden is actually almost completely in the shade until about 10 o'clock, and then it starts to slowly move backwards. All right, so here we've got our winter squash, and they're getting pretty big. These actually, one of these is a spaghetti squash, and I think one of them is a Hubbard, and they're really taking off. These were the latest ones that I planted, and you can kind of see they are just as big as the other squash. So what this shows is that you can plant squash a little bit later, and with the weather being warmer, and they will actually do better than if they're planted sooner and experience the cold temperatures. Over here we've got our butternut, which those are a little slow this year, and then in the back we have more Hubbards and an acorn and a kabocha. These are the varieties I'm trialing through Seed Savers Exchange. We've got Banquet, Oregon, and Green Gold, so I'm excited to see how those turn out. The wilted leaves here are some Swiss chard that I transplanted from a lady who traded me for some plants. So we'll see if those guys recover. They're not very happy right now. Here we have our true black brandywine, and this guy is just taking off. Here is a Pantano Romanesco, also doing really well. And we've got a Cherokee Purple. These guys are really looking nice. Blue Beauty, Hungarian Heart, and there's another Hungarian Heart in here, and it's looking like I really need to figure out how to get this thing off of here. Unfortunately, this thing is connected at all ends, it's just a circle, and I may have put it over the top of an 8-foot T-post, so it might be hard to get that off without getting water everywhere. This is a indigo apple from Wild Boar Farms. Now this was started at the exact same time as the ones that you saw in the front, but it has really taken off here. I think the difference might be that I put Epsom salt in the bottom of this hole when I planted it, and I'm not sure I did that with the one in the front. Now this one is a black crim, and then here at the end we have an Amish paste and a San Marzano. Now, as I mentioned last week, the San Marzano looked absolutely pitiful when I planted it. It is just continuing to take off and look absolutely beautiful. Super strong, healthy plant. Here we have some bush beans, which I started probably last week, and they are sprouting and getting their first true leaves. And then over here we have the Krinkovic Yugoslavian, which, as I mentioned, is one that I've been super impressed with. They're just taking off. Same with the Smiley. And now the Smiley is part of the Seed Savers Exchange trial that I'm participating in. And wow, look at this German pink. Look at the different style of the leaves on this guy. Super pretty and just totally taking off. Here we have Church, Airy Leaf, which is a paste variety. Rinaldo. Now these ones looked really wimpy when I first planted them, but they are shaping up nicely. And then Salvatore Select there at the end. Now here we have our peppers, which we finally got all of the peppers in the ground, and they are seeming pretty happy. We've got King of the North here. This is some sort of purple pepper. Let me see. It is purple jalapeno. And then we have orange spice, purple beauty, and beside that we have carrot, and they are not really coming up yet. We have some more peppers, which I neglected to label. I think most of them are banana peppers, and then I think the one in the middle is a poblano pepper. And then if you can see here, we've got some rosemary just starting to get a hold on life. Rosemary is taking forever. So we'll see. Hopefully they start to produce soon, because I like to use rosemary in cooking. Then we've got 2 hills of zucchini, which I replanted yesterday because the original seeds I planted did not come up. And then we've got a saffron zucchini, or saffron summer squash. And this plant I got, I didn't start it myself, I got it already started, and he has just been trying to die on me. He wilts every time the sun comes out, so he's happy right now in the shade. And then over here we've got a black beauty zucchini and 2 gray zucchinis. And then yesterday I planted our melons. Now melons are another crop that likes to be planted later in the season when it's a little bit warmer outside. So they also are a little bit temperamental. So how I planted them is I trenched out this ground here and filled it with compost, and then I put some of the dirt back in and added more compost and more dirt, and then filled that in and raised it up a little bit. And then I also, in each planting hole, before I planted, I dumped a couple handfuls of sand, because interestingly, melons like sandy soil. And I did the same thing over here. I haven't planted these ones yet because they haven't come up yet in the pots that I started them in. And then those back there are Beni Kodama watermelon, and they are just personal size watermelon. Last year we didn't have very good luck with watermelons. I'm hoping that maybe growing a smaller variety will actually get some that ripen all the way. And then here we have our garlic, which I'm just starting to see some scapes on these, and they look about ready to harvest the scapes tonight or tomorrow for dinner. And then we've got our onions in here. They're doing pretty well. And then over here we have our Swiss chard, which may or may not survive. Beans, cosmos. Now this plate looks super cruddy in here, but I put olive oil in those and they attract earwigs, although that one looks like it ran out of oil. And then the earwigs die and stop bothering your plants. We've got cosmos here. Now these ones are interesting. They look a little bit different than this variety, which is what I've had in the past. And here's some of the Swiss chard, and these guys are starting to perk up. I've got all season lettuce here. Now I grew this last year and was really impressed that it did not bolt. All the other greens that I had grown, except Swiss chard, bolted really early on in the summer and I wasn't able to enjoy them. But this lettuce did not bolt until probably October is when it went to seed. Maybe even after the last frost, or the first frost. And then here you can see I've got some basil in. This is another one I just planted because it tends to like the warmer weather. These cosmos are volunteers, and I've got a nasturtium here. And then we have some banana and poblano peppers. And we've got, I think that's carrots that haven't come up yet. And then we've got some Swiss chard mixed in with our eggplant. And that looks like it's perking up. More carrots and then peppers here. And now these guys are pretty small and they are starting to get blossoms. I'm gonna actually snap these off because these plants need more time to get established before they start putting their energy into fruit. You can see this little guy it's actually already bloomed, so I'm gonna pull that off and leave it for probably another week or two. I've heard that it's best to leave them for at least 2 weeks in the ground before that you let them start blossoming. And then some more carrots that haven't come up yet and some Swiss chard. Down here at the end, we have greens and flowers. So the spinach, it's been really hot this week. This variety is Virginia Savoy blight resistant, and well, it's already starting to bolt and it's the beginning of June, so that's kind of unfortunate. I'm gonna pull that off and see if we can get some time out of it. Now here, I was talking about this last week. I think you can see on the back of these leaves, those are eggs, and when that hatches, the larva will eat the inside of the leaves and leave these really nasty marks. So I'm gonna pull that leaf off and check the other ones, make sure we don't have any eggs on the back of those. Something else, probably earwigs, is eating my spinach, and so I need to put some more olive oil traps out here for that. It's not one thing with these guys, it's another. This is not my year for spinach, apparently. All right. And then here we've got cosmos and sunflowers, and I've just continued to throw more and more cosmos in here because it doesn't seem like this section of the garden is going to be real great for growing food. The bugs just seem to have overridden it. All right, and then over here we've got flower garden with some food varieties mixed in. We've got our peas, and they are really taking off. They are climbing past the top of the fence now, which I'm hoping I can maybe grow them along the top of the fence and that they'll still produce just fine with that. Then we've got here some penstemon, and that's just starting to bloom, super pretty. And you can see here our veronica is getting ready to bloom, and that's gonna have spiky purple spears of purple blossoms on top, and they're just stunning when they are fully blooming. And here we've got one of our blueberry bushes, and you can see in there it's got some blueberries on it. Obviously far from ready. And here we've got this nice volunteer sunflower. I'm curious to see how it does because it's right on the edge of the mostly shady part of the garden. And then here's the rest of the shade garden, plum trees, and our beehives. You can watch some other videos on our YouTube channel that have videos of us caring for the beehives. Alright, so that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed seeing our garden and that you will come back next week to see the progress that we're making. If you want to get updates each week, be sure to hit the subscribe button below, and hope to see you back next week.